Well, let's kick things off. My name is Chris Berry, and I am an instructor here at Salesforce.com, and I've been here for about 4.5 years, and this is what I do. I teach the Dev 401, the Dev 501, this class, and then the Dev 502 courses that we offer through our training and certification organization. The course is intended for folks who already are comfortable with object-oriented programming, so whether it's something like Java or C#. You know, our goal here is not to teach you object-oriented programming. Our goal is to teach you how to code within Apex. Let's jump into our slides. The safe harbor statement. If I make any forward-looking statements, understand that Salesforce may or may not implement any of the features that are currently on our roadmap. So do not make any operational or any other sort of future-looking decisions based on the deliverability of a feature that I may or may not mention. I try not to talk about future features just because I prefer to solve problems using the technology that we have available today. But if I do mention anything that is forward-looking, just please understand that it may or may not actually make it into the product in the future. Okay? The full safe harbor statement is at our website at salesforce.com if you would like to read it. Force.com and cloud computing. So let's talk about Salesforce in general as a platform. There's a number of different layers that exist that are associated with our solution. Starting at the very top, Salesforce is a CRM company. And so we have our Sales Cloud and our Service Cloud applications, which are two out-of-the-box applications that we offer to our customers. Below that, we have Chatter. So all of our applications are Chatter enabled. They're all social. And so Chatter is an integral part of the solutions that we provide. Below that, we have the Force.com platform. Our customers can create custom applications using Force.com, or they can customize or extend their CRM applications also using those platform technologies. When we're talking about platform technologies, we're talking about not only modifying the user interface, but also business logic, and also the data model. And at the very bottom, database.com, this is a term we use to represent the fact that we have this common multi-tenant database, which is the foundation of all of these solutions that exist above it. So what are the advantages of our development platform versus more traditional types of solutions? To me, this slide really kind of shows the ultimate benefit of Salesforce as a cloud computing solution. So Salesforce, our customers, what they're paying for is they're paying for the folks who are maintaining the data centers, so all that infrastructure. So the folks that are out there applying patches, doing the high availability, the backups, all that kind of stuff. There's also the application services that we provide. So once again, the Force.com, all those different customization points that are available for you to custom tailor those applications. And then the operational services, so the folks out there maintaining that infrastructure, but doing all those operational tasks to keep this system up and running and highly available for our customers. All of these things are being provided by Salesforce, and the net result is that as developers, we can now focus on building customizations for our end users and meeting their business requirements rather than spending our time on the mundane, sort of no value add, if you will, of maintaining IT infrastructure. I've heard statistics like CIOs quoting that 70% of their budget is being spent just on maintaining existing systems and all this stuff on the left-hand side of that slide, and a mere 30% is spent on the right-hand side. And so I think the value of Salesforce's development platform is our ability to increase that percentage of our customers' budget, which is spent on innovation and meeting those business requirements that our customers have. Okay. All right. There are many different definitions of cloud computing, but let's talk about our definition of cloud computing. Salesforce is a multi-tenant solution, and what that means is that multiple customers are using the same binary code base, the same servers, the same application servers. So when a request comes into Salesforce, it's being handled by a web server and an application server. It's querying the database, but at the end of the day, our customers, their data, whether it's in the database, is commingling, if you will, with other customers' data, and they might just be a separate thread when a request comes into our application server, a separate thread that is executing that request to return a response. Now, what about the fact that because the data is commingling, do we have issues with people seeing each other's data? Well, no, because one of the things that we implicitly do with every single request is we apply a filter so that customers only see the data associated with their organizations and they never see anyone else's. It's very similar to if you've ever used a web-based email, something like a Gmail or a Yahoo. When you created that account at Yahoo, it didn't go out and create your own custom database. You're ultimately using a multi-tenant solution, and you only ever see your own emails because they're applying a filter to restrict your access to only the stuff that you own, right? There are big benefits to doing this. One of the things that we can do is we have a single solution that we then are able to focus all of our development efforts on and ultimately pass along those savings to our customers. Ours is a subscription-based product, and so what this means is that we do not have an upfront fee that we charge our customers in order to purchase the product. You subscribe to the product no differently than you might subscribe to a magazine or subscribe to the cable company. And what that means is that we have fixed predictable costs, it scales with your business, and we also, because we have this single multi-tenant system, we perform automatic upgrades. 3 times a year, so roughly once every 4 months, Salesforce performs a seasonal update to our code base. Now, it's a very different model than what you're probably used to with an off-the-shelf, a standard piece of software that you download from the internet or you install onto your laptop with a CD. In the sense that with a piece of software, normally you control when you're going to perform that update. The thing about performing those updates is that with software systems, the vendors have no visibility into how their customers are using those systems, and so often those updates would end up breaking the customizations that those customers have, and therefore people avoided doing updates to their systems because it was very costly, whether it was just performing the update or applying the fixes in order to make those work. The advantage of Salesforce is that in having this single system, we can monitor what our customers are doing and how they're using their product. And so when we perform those updates, we can actually verify and test the integrity of the system to make sure that our updates don't break our users' customizations. So it's a big advantage over the sort of package software model that existed previously. Now, what about things like compatibility issues? One of the great things about our platform, and you'll see this when we're developing an Apex, is that you can associate a version with something like an Apex trigger or an Apex class. And one of the things that we ensure is backwards compatibility for those versions. So today, we're on version 26.0 of our platform. And when you create a new class or a new trigger in Apex, one of the things that we do is in the metadata, we associate a version with that. What that version does is it ensures when we move to our next release, which will be 27.0, the spring release, one of the things that we'll do is we'll take a look at that version being 26.0 and run that code in that emulation mode or in that backward compatibility mode. Therefore, if there's a certain behavior at that version, so let's, just to be silly, let's say that a for loop, has a certain behavior in version 26.0, and in version 27.0, we're going to change the behavior of a for loop. Never really happened, but it's just a silly example. Because you have 26.0 associated with that version of that class, you know that the compiler is going to use that older definition of how to interpret a for loop. If you decide down the road that you want to use some sort of new feature that became available in, let's say, 27.0, well, what you would need to do in order to use that new feature is apply that update, mark the version of that class, increase it to 27.0, implement that new feature, but also modify your code to work with whatever the new implementation of that for loop would be. So in other words, you control, based on that version number, when you want to use those new features and when you want to, if you will, upgrade your code. But at the end of the day, there's only one version of Salesforce out there at any given time. All our customers are on the same release. All our customers are using the same platform. Okay? All right, the development tool. So when we are developing these different customizations, we have a couple of general choices that we can make. We can customize on our platform. We can make changes using the point and click functionality. We can also make changes using the more flexible, powerful Apex programming language, or for that matter, Visualforce pages. And we can also integrate with external systems using things like our APIs, or we'll talk about later on in this class doing web service call outs to external systems. Now, if we compare the point and click versus the programmatic option, you as a developer have a choice. And the way that you should be approaching that choice is anytime that you can solve a problem using a declarative feature, in other words, a point and click feature, most of the time you should choose that point and click feature. And the reason is that it's cheaper, it's easier, it's faster, and it's much easier to maintain going forward. It's also, from the standpoint of an administrator versus a developer, our point and click features are the kind of things that administrators can maintain. Now, let's say that you want to do something from a business automation standpoint and the point and click functionality doesn't cut it. So whether it be something like a validation rule or workflow rule, you're not able to meet the business requirement using those features. Well, in that case, take a look at creating an Apex trigger. So with Apex, we have a lot more flexibility over what we can do in Salesforce because we can write the object-oriented code to meet those business requirements. And that's going to be our focus this week. But as a developer, you should never approach this question by thinking, how am I going to solve this problem? Well, I'm going to write some code. Your first option should always be to choose a declarative solution. All right? To get more information, our number one resource that we have is developer.force.com, and then also help in trading. So from a programmer standpoint, developer.force.com has so much information at it. It contains links to the documentation. There's a number of different articles on different technical topics. It's also where you can download tools like the force.com IDE. So it's our primary portal for developer content. There's also help in training, and help in training has our e-learning titles that we offer on things like implementing business logic using declarative features. I think there's over 90 different e-learning titles for folks who are using our Premier Success Plans and have access to those. In addition, the help also contains the full copy of our documentation, so you can really go to either place in order to get access to that documentation. But both are great resources that are available to you. All right, here is a chart showing the different options that are available to you. So if we think about an MVC model, we have the model view and the controller. So our user interface is the view. We have our declarative options, so things like our page layouts, our apps, and our tabs. When we think about business logic, workflow rules, validation rules, things like formulas, approval processes, visual workflow, all of these are different options that we provide. And then our model. So our objects, which are like tables, our fields, which are like columns, and we can define a relational structure. Over on the right-hand side, we have the programmatic options. So our custom user interfaces are Visualforce pages. Our custom business logic is implemented in Apex. That's going to be our focus this week. And then if you wanted to, you could have an external data model, so we can integrate with external systems using our different API callouts or call-ins. So what tools are available to us? We have our sandboxes. Our sandboxes are both our development and our testing environments, separate from your production environment. We have the setup menu, which is the place where you can develop those declarative customizations using the point-and-click features. There's the Force.com IDE, which is the development environment that we're going to be using this week in order to write our Apex classes and our Apex triggers. There's also the metadata migration tools for taking definitions that we've been working on and migrating them from one environment to another. An example would be from one sandbox to another sandbox, or from sandbox up to production. And then we talked about developer.force.com. So one of the things that is one of the key advantages of Salesforce's development platform is we have something called the Metadata API. And the Metadata API is the mechanism that we use to publish definitions of your customizations that you've created for your Force.com applications. Whether it be things like standard objects or page layouts, or custom objects or custom Apex classes, or what have you. And so with the Metadata API, we provide you what are essentially those XML definitions of the customizations that you've made. And it works hand in hand with you as a developer. You can take those definitions, you can check them into a source control repository, for instance, migrate your work from one sandbox environment to another. Or for that matter, some of you might be using Developer Edition to do your development.